during late 80s and early 90s. I was in the travel trade, aviation, because I love travel, I love fashion. I was in self-denial. I couldn't accept the way I was. My family was so religious, so conservative. At the end of the day, I also want to be normal like everybody else. So I tried to date women. Yeah, I met her and then I took a liking for her. She took a liking for me. She was a decent girl. I think maybe she thought that I was trying to change. We just stopped calling each other. I was with the woman because I want her to bear my children. I want to provide my children the best of lives, to have a proper family. But then without me being attracted to a woman, I think that's ridiculous.
I think it's after my O-levels because I'm not schooling or what. I was sleeping. I was so tired back from, then I'll just pull over my bed and just sleep. My mother works in night shift. Then she comes home, then she saw everything. Wigs and all the clothes, condom, hormones and all. So she was quite shocked. Condom is the worst thing ever. This is condom all. I was like, because I was sleeping, so I was so in shock and confused already. Like, shit, I was stupid me. My mom called my father to come back home. I was like, I just cry only. I say sorry. Or what. My parents wasn't physical, they're very emotional, but that makes me more sad. Someone see my father cry. But then inside my heart, like, also good also lah. I just don't need to hide really. It's tiring to hide.
I don't mind adopting. It's the pregnancy that I'm scared of. I see people cannot walk lah. Alamak. And then I've seen the giving birth part. Aiyo, better don't give birth. No, I will not tell them. I don't want them to feel the shame. I know they will feel the shame. Some may say, I'm not ashamed of you. You don't know what. It's all talk, but you don't know inside. They'll be like, what the fuck, my mother did this.
My name is Bunny. I'm a transgender sex worker. I've been doing this since I was I think 16. And now I'm 28. So 12 years.
My name is Selena. I'm a Singaporean pre-op transgender in my 40s and I do sex work on a freelance basis.
I am Sam. I work as a masseuse.
I don't know whether it's the wife or the girlfriend. She called me. She thought I'm his maybe mistress or what. Yeah, but in the way she thought she's very rude. She kept shouting at me and stuff. It was a bad day on that day. So I was so angry and pissed with her. And I was saying, hey, I'm a lady boy. Your man look for man. Then I think she's struck. She like, usually if this thing happens, it's like a shame to the guy, right? Sometimes I feel bad doing this job. Make me more sick of the man because always the woman's fault. My wife's not giving it to me. We are not doing it for 1 year or 2 years. And if they start to tell about their wife or what, then I don't know why I feel guilty. Sometimes I do feel, what if the woman got to find out about this? Then I'll be like one of the reason for their breakup. The thing about I'm feminist, like we feel for another woman, right? And I promise myself I will never do that again.
I realize a lot of them, actually they don't know how to have sex, man. How to satisfy a girl. They don't know how to control it. Because you pay me 1 hour, 10 minutes you're already out here. Very fast. Lucky Shock is this Indian guy, alamak. I just take off my top, He stand on there, I see, water fountain. You come already. Then I say, okay lah, next time we do again.
Most of the men look for us at 12. Lunchtime is where they all kinky stuff. Usually this man is a married man. For me, I would be like, we talk first and know each other a bit. Then we move on to the bed. I want to know why they want to meet lady boys and stuff. I will do some profiling about my client first. Some of the men are really lazy and they just lie down. Like you're squatting is tiring, right? Then some more, you turn. Sometimes with the newbie, I can be very irritated with them because they don't know what they want. So they want to try this, they want to try that. Like, oh.
As a sex worker, I do feel liberated. You still have to think on your feet in the face of danger. Customer doesn't want to use condom. How do you negotiate that so as not to lose business? So all this is what common sense, right? If you don't have intelligence, you can't negotiate all these things. People think that it's just all about opening your legs and having sex, senseless sex.
Some of them not come here just for sex. One customer, he had very small dick. The first time I met him, I also got shocked, eh? He's very well built, but you look there, I just keep quiet. But I know he's shy because he looked away. Then I say, you don't have to be shy. I've seen too many already. And then he's like, I've always had this problem. And then he comes here to like talk. It's not about sex. He does love his wife very much. Sometimes the wife like criticize him about the size of that one, and you can see that he's trying to hold his tears. That's it. That's fine. If they cannot accept you, then walk away. Don't give a shit.
This is the first time that we are having a shutdown. I couldn't remember the last time we had this sad situation where we're having temporary closure or not being able to operate for a period of time.
I live in Lavender. First transmission, it was at Jalan Besar, right? That's why I was so scared. I buy vitamin C and all. The thing is, not so much locals SMSing really now. From maybe 20 per day, right? Right now, there's like 2 or 1.
I actually thought it's gonna be like SARS. It's like no big deal. Like there will be some kind of a cure for it. But I really didn't expect it to turn to this bad. And if this is close, finish. This is too soon. Too soon to have any backup. I don't eat so much now. Maybe 1 meal so I don't have to spend so much.
Men also capitalize on this virus to even exploit the girls, asking for cheaper rates because they know the girls will be desperate for business. Even during this virus outbreak, many customers still ask for no condom on blowjob. They say they can't get full erection, they cannot get pleasure. Can you imagine if I do it without condom with each and every man? I would have been dead by now.
My mom saw me in Geylang. Then I ran off. But I don't even to look at my mom. Because she never see me like in physically woman or what. So after a few days, she texts me to come back home. If not, she'll report to the police. Then I say, you want me to come back home, just accept me lah. So I just went home in girl's form. When I come back home, never talk or what, just like that. My father, he doesn't know about my sex work and stuff. We were on our way to buy a house. Then suddenly he had a stroke. So then we just get a rental home. I was so scared. How am I going to cope having someone over at my place? Then I feel very bad lah. Like I bring customer inside my room, right? Like my father in the room. But then what to do really? Of course I tried to. I only feel very bad about that part. But also, sometimes some of them, we are not doing this for forever. Like some of them do have plans. I mean, you can change someone. Don't really like try to stigma them and blame them, right?
Do you have a boyfriend?
Yeah.
For how long?
Oh no, already 3 years already. He wants me to settle down with him in UK, but with this going on, you have to wait first. Yeah, I want to settle down and not do all this anymore. I'm tired of this job. Sometimes you do see the good ones, but sometimes you do see the bad ones. So I have to save up even more. I want to make sure that once I leave here, I have enough to survive throughout the rest of my life.
When I decided to go full time was when my parents passed on. So I was really very lonely. I had nothing to look forward to. I thought that maybe this would be the time for me to be a full-fledged, full-time woman, because you need to really pluck up your courage. And at the moment, I'm in a full-time employment doing community work, peer educator in sexual health. My role as an outreach officer or peer educator is to interact with the ladies on the ground to educate and remind them about the dangers of sexually transmitted infections, about the mandatory use of condom at all times, not to be swayed away by higher payment to disregard condom. Some of them are sole breadwinners. They can't help to be overly worried about it. So I empathize with them. It's like a rough ride, like nothing is smooth sailing. Life is about ups and downs. It wouldn't last forever. Things will get better.
I'm going to start this after my school. I don't see also the point in working this until you're old. I see some of the lady boys who are a bit more older, yeah, they do struggle and stuff. Yeah, I want to work, then have a good job or what. Yeah, it's quite hard. Yeah, so finish school as kids. I really want the lady boys to finish school or what, because I don't want them to be stuck in sex working. They have choices. For me, I don't really dream big, like just be a normal life, easy life.
Hi, I'm Caittrin, and I'm a professional dominatrix. Yeah, and also like a lifestyle dog. Because sometimes I've got taxi drivers that say, "Oh, so what do you do?" Or like, yeah, just training CEOs how to behave themselves. Because so like domination is in relation of BDSM. It's like it's bondage, discipline, sadomasochism. So it's like an advanced version of intimacy.
Hello, my name is Melrose. I'm a Singapore pre-op transgender and I do sex work for a living.
I find it portrays a very accurate depiction because there's a lot of them out there. They just it's somehow like scripted, and they just want to like please the audience, like what the audience actually want to hear. But this film is very very accurate. I hear a lot of stories from other sex workers. It's very very similar to the situation.
for your film, it was like, it's nice, it's nicely made. It really, because I didn't expect, like, my friend is there, she's the one who's like, the very, very shy type, and then I realized that, suddenly she's opened up, to this interview and stuff. We grew up in the same kind of, like, how to say, in the same spot lah, or in the same workplace in that sense lah. That's when I get to know her. I was like, oh, okay, this is okay. That's nice to know. Whatever, when you recorded them, right, it's relatable. Yeah, 100% relatable lah.
And also, like, I think statistics wise, I guess, I think it plays a part. Yeah, to see that, oh, we didn't know that, like, we have this much, like, sex workers in Singapore. Yeah, just that, like, it's called, like, underground. Yeah, it also reminds me of, I think someone told me that between cisgender and trans, actually the demand in Singapore is half. So I didn't know that. Yeah, so I think even for me, I mean, as a fellow sex worker, I'm also quite surprised when a transgender sex worker actually told me that.
About the visuals, actually, it's quite kind of like, I'm more of a, I hear more in that sense, but the visual it doesn't kind of like, for me it's okay, it doesn't have to be a visual thing, For me, it's kind of like, this is quite interesting topic. It's kind of like a podcast, like that, if you can say, right? Yeah. But if you make it a film, perhaps maybe an animated kind will be, something cool or nice, to make people understand and stuff like that. Like, give them the visual of, like, animated kind of, because you do more of, like, in Singapore kind of, sceneries and stuff like that. That's nice that, like, you can touch. I mean, like, kind of like, oh, this kind of place, this is where I used to be here and stuff like that. Oh yeah, okay, relatable and stuff, with their experiences and places and stuff like that, right? Yeah, it's more kind of like, I can resonate with them. I can understand things from how they, talk about their life and stuff.
I'm just curious to see, like, visuals, because, like, I was expecting, like, visuals to be maybe like a sneak peek, but like of the like who they are and what they do, kind of thing. But it's really just general, like a very typical Singapore looking. Yeah, it feels like a podcast to me. Yeah, so I could, like, do away with, like, the other visuals. Yeah, but then the thing is that maybe, like, say certain places, for example, like, I think you just shoot of, like, the like Orchard Towers, and, like, all the shops are closed, kind of thing, the pandemic situation. I think that's, like, that will actually invoke the sense of for the audience itself. But for me, because I do domination, it's very, very different than having escorts or masseurs. But for them, because they do sexual intercourse, which I don't, so it's very, very different situations.
And for me, being in this industry, right, I actually gone through so much. I met so many different types of people, white, black, all sorts of, this kind of thing. So when I look back, it's kind of like, okay, these are the steps that I took, and it was nice, it was fun, it made me human in that sense, yeah.
There are so many branches of, like, what sex work could be. It's like, you can be like domination, you could be like masseurs, you can be strippers, which is, we don't have it here. I think kingship is taught, in schools, especially consent-wise. Yeah, I know, like, NUS just recently, were teaching those people who stay in the hostels that, you have to take this consent class. And I was like, and then they actually have a backlash on this, like, a foreign student was, like, saying, why do you have to take, like, learn how to do consent in uni level when you should have learned, like, consent, like, when you're a kid? Yeah, and I think most people are just so scared of, like, if they ask something, then they will get rejected. I think a lot of Singaporeans, there is fear of rejection, because rejection is something that's being not taught in school, because it was like, you have to get A for or everything, and then you're so scared of, like, getting rejected. I think rejection is more of a deep-rooted issue for Singaporean people.
Like, how does a sex worker see a sex work? Do they judge it as well? Like, do they even, considering if they were to judge sex work, right, they're judging themselves, mah? If I were to say to the audience, if they were to be watching the film, just be more open to things, Sometimes we don't need people to accept us, We just need them to understand, to see it from a different angle. That's the only thing, If you don't like it, up to you. I'm not gonna force you to like it, because at the end of the day, it's sex work. Like for me, I find it, well, it's a work. You see, it's a work. Like I said, doctors, lawyers. This is a work. Doctors and lawyers, they are not correct. They are, it's a job, right? It's more of like an occupation. So sex work is pretty much, what's the difference? You tell me.
Hi everyone. Happy Sunday, and thanks for joining us this evening at Freedom Film Fest for Shades of Love. I hope you enjoyed the film and the reaction video. So this panel will will sort of aim at processing some of the thoughts and feelings that you and we have about the film, the process of its making, the conditions of production, and some of the voices and stories of sex workers that it brings up. So basically, this is a reaction to a reaction to a reaction of the film. So it's very meta, so please prepare yourselves. We are joined here today by the fabulous Jessica Lee. She is a local filmmaker and producer who's known for, quote unquote, that true crime killer show on Netflix, but it's also known as the Umbrella Killer. So her pronouns are she, her. Let's welcome Jessica. I will imagine you all clapping, the clapping emoji. We're also joined by Caittrin, who is an international professional and lifestyle dominatrix from the BDSM community. Her pronouns are she, her. So let's give it up for Caittrin.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, oh my God, I love the gloves.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Selena, who is Selena Xiaowen Si. Correct me if I didn't say it right. She's a local erotica provider who is semi-retired and is looking forward to sharing her experiences. Her pronouns are she, her. Let's give it up for Selena. Okay, I should stop saying that. A little bit about me. I'm Raksha. I'm your moderator for today, so I'll be taking questions. My background is in community work and research, and I'm also a Project X volunteer and member for coming 5 years now. So I'm queer, and my participation in this is informed by my standing in solidarity with sex workers and entertainment workers who are also queer and trans. Okay, so enough to chat. We really want to hear from you, and we want your questions. So please, if you have thoughts about the film, do share them in the chat. And some of our volunteers, Nina and Shamima, will be passing these questions to us. I have a few questions to get us started. So if there's nothing else, then we'll begin with that. Okay, so maybe for the first section, focusing on the film and thinking a little bit about how it was made. Jessica, maybe as a grant winner for Freedom Film Festival, you received, I think, $5,000 to make this film right before COVID happened, right? And so it's a very dramatic turn of events that saw the pandemic happen, and it was nearly very, very difficult to put a production crew together. What was your experience working on the film, if you could share that with us?
Hi everyone, thanks firstly for spending your precious Sunday time with us watching the film and also the reaction video. I mean, it's really great that we have both Selena as well as Caittrin here today. That's quite rare, so they're definitely the VIPs of today, so feel free to ask them more questions. And thanks Raksha as well for moderating this. I think you're right, it was super dramatic. The idea for this film, came early on during the pandemic when people were all talking about frontline workers, like doctors and nurses, really putting their lives on the line, right, to fight the pandemic, to save lives. And it got me thinking about, other communities in Singapore that were also kind of doing the same, but maybe did not receive as much attention. And sex workers came to mind immediately. So it felt as if, I was curious as to how sex workers were grappling with the pandemic at the same time, having to also put their lives on the line in order to make a living. And it's what started, I think, as a curiosity quite quickly became an all-consuming project. and desire to kind of find out more. And I was lucky enough to be able to work with Project X, right, who were kind and generous at the time, but also introducing me to sex workers like Selena, Bunny, and Sam, and many more of them. And then, giving me the opportunity to kind of interview them. Obviously, the film festival kind of funding was super important because that allowed me to actually think a bit bigger. And beyond just like a self, project where I was bringing along my rickety kind of microphone to record, it was like, okay, let's also think about how do we weave in visuals and make this a more immersive experience for the viewers. And that's how, I was able to bring in a team and a very small team to make this show a reality. So yeah, that was kind of the quick rundown of the process of how this show was made. But it was definitely more dramatic than I've explained it.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, you said you faced some of the challenges around the pandemic. Were there other challenges that you faced, especially working on, marginalized or topics about marginalized communities like this one?
I think with these projects, it's always so important to come in at the level of the community and not attempt to impose your own narrative or storytelling as a filmmaker, which can be quite tempting to do so sometimes, right? Like the assumption that I know better. So it was very important for me to actually walk the ground, spend time with different sex workers, even without the cameras rolling, to build that relationship and trust. And only then I think will people, anyone, right, not just sex workers, but any interviewee feel safe and comfortable to open up. So that was definitely not really a challenge, but more of like, I think an important aspect of documentary filmmaking. And doing the same for the Shades of Love, I think was crucial for that.
Thanks so much. I'm just checking to see if there are any questions coming in, but so far none. No heckling either, thankfully. So great. Maybe we can move very quickly to some of the people that you interviewed. And Selena was in the film, and Caittrin was in the reaction video. So maybe we could get your thoughts on the film. How did you feel watching these stories in Shades of Love? What was different about this, and what stood out? Of course, you don't have to say completely positive things just because the filmmakers here. Maybe Selena, would you like to go first? Given that you were in the film.
Sorry, what were you saying?
What were your thoughts about the film?
I personally kind of like it because it depicts the experiences of the different experiences of 3 different people of different age group, a different era. So you can see like what I call some sad story, some story of empowerment, aspiration, perseverance. Yeah. So I see different shades to it. Yeah. It's not very one-dimensional,
Right.
Even though at the end of the day, the experience is more or less about the same. It's pure hardship, just like any other job. We learn on the job, we just get better, we become smarter, we have to make mistakes, and learn from there, and just become better and be more careful. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that you're saying that this film, it worked really well to diversify the kinds of voices of sex workers, the kinds of stories that people have of sex workers, and but also work to normalize what the work is about, right? And it is something like any other job, right? Something you can get better at. You learn skills, you pick up skills, and constantly get better at it. Thanks so much for.
Okay.
Did you want to add something else?
Yeah, just like any other job, there are some skill sets that depending on what situation you are in. Sex work, it's not one-dimensional. It's not like what people think. We have got different set of clientele too, upscale, white collar, blue collar, or whatever. So that which will require different treatment. They have different expectation and stuff like that. So it's not a job like not really like for bimbo or no skill set, you know. Sometimes you have to think on your feet, how to free yourself, how to better yourself, how probably to get more money, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. So I mean, we learned. I for one learned many things, from zero knowledge to what do you call, valuable experience. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Selena. I feel like that's such a rich answer, and I want to come back to it in a little bit, especially tapping on the kinds of valuable things that you learned, maybe some of the lessons, takeaways. Maybe can we go to Caittrin and get your responses to the film? How did you, what did you like about it, and how do you think it stands? If you'd like to share anything with us, besides what you shared in the reaction video.
Yeah, so like basically I feel that I could do away with the visuals and it feels like a podcast, and from the voices you actually could feel the emotions attached to it. So being able to visualize from our own perspective, so we're trying to imagine how they feel. And from the experiences that they have is I'm able to understand more of what other sex worker experiences, because it's very, very different from my own experience. And basically like what Jessica have done is that she did portray of an accurate like storytelling of what sex workers actually do, rather than what the media actually wanted to portray. Yeah, because as what Jessica has mentioned, as a filmmaker, you're probably like very tempted to go with your own narrative, like, oh, I know better than this. But she did a great job on maintaining the authenticity of the whole entire experiences of what actually sex workers actually experienced. Yeah, which is a good job. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Like that must be a really great affirmation for Jessica. But also, I think what I'm hearing is that there's also, you feel that it's really representative and accurate and kind of and you relate to it, right? Personally, and knowing the things you know about your community.
Yes.
Sorry, did you want to add something else?
Yeah, to add on to that, because from the interview that Jessica have done, it's very different compared to me, because like for me, I'm a cisgender, so it's what actually the transgender community experience is very different from what I actually experience, and the kind of work I do, because I don't have sexual intercourse with my clients. So it's actually a bit much more different in terms of like, oh, you cannot touch me without my permission and things like that. But for them, I think they need to learn much more, especially maybe a bit of martial arts, and how to defend themselves. Because for me is that when they come to me, the expectation is very different as compared when you come to masseuse or come to escorts. Yeah. So like for me, because clients come to me, they know like this is the boundaries. I have my terms and conditions that I list out. So like like a whole list, and you have to accept the term and condition even before meeting me. And it's very important because yeah, that's how you get to know like consent and boundaries is very, very important in terms of the BDSM aspects. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that really brings home the point that there is such a diversity in the industry in like different niches. We heard from a masseuse, a massage worker. We hear from lifestyle and kink or BDSM community workers. We also hear from street walkers and people working in brothels. So yeah, I think there is some steps towards representing those different experiences, and of course we can only do so through engaging with people who are actually doing the work, right? Thanks so much for sharing that. We're having a few questions come in now. I have a question for Jessica. Okay, so Caittrin mentioned the visuals. Caittrin says visuals could have been done without. It felt like a podcast, and I think the audience felt similarly. Adrian was asking, why did you choose the visuals you did? And Adrian felt he felt differently, saying that they were very effective and poignant in pushing the story forward, yet allowing the audience to think about what was being said. So yeah, maybe Jessica, you could comment a bit about the filmmaking process.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Adrian. The visuals is really about a day in life of Singapore, because I thought that the juxtaposition with the average day, right, waking up, birds chirping, people doing their web marketing, and then going through the whole process was a nice contrast to the stories that were being told by the sex workers, because in a way, you know, their lives are very much like ours, like normal. But at the same time, there's such a big contrast because I think people don't expect it. Like we don't really listen or hear the voices of sex workers much in our community. And so I wanted both that similarity, but also the juxtaposition. And if you can tell based on the colors, I'm not sure whether anyone noticed, but each sex worker actually had a color, and that plays into the whole idea of the shades of love as well. Because I think a lot of times sex workers, you know, live in the dark, or they are forced to live in the dark in that sense. When actually their lives are very colorful and meaningful. They are entrepreneurs, they are, you know, mothers, they are partners, they are therapists, and just giving them those colors, I think, imbued it with much more meaning and positivity. So Selena, for example, she was blue, Sam was yellow, and then Bunny was green. And so in scenes when the voices were being heard, those colors were also accentuated more, if you could tell. So it's kind of playing around with those colors, but at the same time, the visuals was I wanted to have that contrast between the day in life of Singapore and their stories. Yep.
Thanks so much for sharing, and that sort of brings to light the rationale or the reasons why you chose Shades of Love as a sort of theme to frame this. Yeah.
And to add on to that, I thought that Caittrin made a good point, because ultimately I didn't want the visual to distract from the voices. Right? Ultimately, the voices were the forefront, which is different from some other films where visuals, people always expect the visuals to play a bigger role. But in this case, I wanted the visuals to actually like draw you in and immerse you in the voices. So in a way, it actually functioned a little bit like audio podcast storytelling. So yeah, that was an interesting thing as well.
Thanks so much, Jessica. I also maybe want to add a note at this point that in terms of representation, it's such a privilege to be able to show your face on camera, on a recording. And I think that I just wanted to point out that Caittrin and Selena are partially, only partially visible, one to keep their video on Zoom, but also to protect their identities. So yeah, we'd appreciate if you don't screenshot this, but of course this will be available via recording to those watching with the festival ticket a few days later. Okay, so on that note, I wanted to think a little bit about the themes. There are quite a few questions on the themes of the documentary and regulation and things like that. So maybe we can get started with Miriam's question to open this discussion. Miriam Franklin asks, what is one change in our society or laws that would make the biggest positive impact for sex workers in Singapore? And such a salient, relevant question given all the challenges that are faced by people working in the industry. So maybe Selena, would you like to take this question, or Caittrin? What is one change in our society or laws that would make the biggest positive impact for sex workers? This is a big question, I guess. One change, you know, yeah. Has to be it.
One change in law?
Yeah.
Criminalize.
Society or law? What?
Decriminalize.
Like
Decriminalize?
decriminalize, or you give some form of immunity
From the police.
For us to be at liberty to report crime, because there's a lot of crime anyway, right? So I mean, within this job scope, I've met a lot of people. I cannot spill the beans. It's my prerogative whether I want to take the job or not, but I know what's going on. I mean, like, you know, so if without threatening to have us charged for soliciting or something like that, you know, so we can at least do away with the fear to report something. Yeah, without getting entangled or without being formally charged for some other offense, for example, you know, on top of a crime. Yeah.
Yeah. Selena, can I ask you to maybe say more about what kinds of things that people want to report but cannot because of the fear of being criminalized?
I think the common one will be substance abuse, which I think it's I don't know if I should say this, but I mean it's all over the world. But I mean it's honestly, I mean, if you want to do escorting, like, you know, like you are bound to meet people like this. You meet people from all walks of life, you know. So escorting more normally white collar professionals or people who can pay, but there'll be some crime, and the one that comes to my mind, I think, would be substance abuse, but of course it varies, you know. So yeah, including trafficking, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and trafficking, there are acts around trafficking, but for this particular film, it's focusing not on trafficking but on sex workers who have gone into the industry for various reasons that don't include coercion, right? Yeah, so yeah, I think there are a few questions on legalization and regulation. What kind of positive impact, maybe if I can follow up with Miriam's question, but also weave in Stacey's question, what kind of positive impact would legalization of sex work or decriminalization of sex work have on you?
Yeah, is that to me?
Oh, either, yeah, Caitlin or Selena. Maybe Caitlin?
Okay.
Sorry, Caittrin?
Yeah. Okay, so from what my experience, like from my fellow sex workers around the world, so like on some states that are decriminalized, you actually get less crime, because the thing is that they have the sex workers have the actually power to report to the police. For example, especially in New Zealand, the whole entire country is decriminalized. So you can, if like a guy, someone actually will say, you know, you want to dox you, or you want to like do this, or asking for a service that is illegal, for example, like drug abuse and all those things, and or like bareback example and things, or maybe like verbal assault, even through like text messages. What they can do is to actually just tell the guy like, oh, I'm sending this to the police, this text to the police, and they have their numbers there. And they can track. So that's the, I mean, I guess that's the beauty of like having decriminalized kind of situation. So like a lot of other states, they're trying to do this, but some states are like legalized but not like fully decrim yet. For example, like in Melbourne. So in Melbourne, like the sex workers actually they have a license. So to actually be an independent or in a brothel, you have this license, the SWA license, where you could actually register yourself. And for example, with this license, you can only do out call or only in call and kind of things. Yeah, but in a way, it's also protect you, saying that, oh, you're a legal sex worker, so that like the guys won't try to mess up you, or you're like not example like illegal immigrant and things like that. Yeah, if they want to like try to out you. Yeah.
Right. So decriminalization actually results in less crimes around and in the industry, and it also increases the protection for sex workers when they're working. Is I'm hearing you say that?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Because example in brothel, or maybe in Sydney also is decrim. So example, like if you're in a brothel and you actually come across this like a client who's trying to abuse. I remember that someone actually told me, like in the dungeons or like in the brothels, they have like a panic button. So if anyone tried to do that, then they would just call out the police and they would just come and like arrest you. Yeah. Which is actually very, very important. Yeah.
Right.
To actually protect both
protect both the sex worker and also the client, because I remember that like in I think you said in the Sweden or something, it's like around the north region of Europe, whereby buying sex works is illegal. So like providing sex works is not illegal, but buying sex works is illegal. So which is why like clients are also very afraid of actually engaging a sex worker. And there are like people who actually being caught, like, for example, like a police trying to be a sex worker, and these clients get hooked onto it, and yeah, they got charged. Yeah, so it's important, like it's not just like in sex worker perspective, but also in both sex worker and the client itself, to protect both sides. That's how Decrim actually does it. Yeah.
Thank you. That was such a illuminating explanation of how Decrim can actually work with a community of care, and how everybody is invested in the protection of people working in that space. And I think that speaks a lot to the stigma, right? That sex work is very complicated and dangerous, and people shouldn't do it because it means like you're putting yourself at risk, health-wise, as well as physically. But I guess what you're also speaking to is that protection is possible, and
yes,
it's possible in these ways. Yeah, thanks so much for that. Sorry, did you want to add something else?
Oh no, like oh yeah, so okay, another example I would give, like legalized but not really legalized. Example in Brisbane. So in Brisbane, for a fellow sex worker, like if you want to work and you want to tell someone like that, oh, okay, I'm doing sex work and this is my location, is just for safety, it's illegal. So technically, when you work, you can't even tell any like your fellow sex worker friend, oh, I'm over here just for my protection, like safety purpose of like if this guy assault me, or you don't call for me from like this timing to this time, basically it's illegal. Yeah, so there are a few ways on how like sex work is, yeah, it's like Decrim actually is important, and yeah, how the definition of being legalized, like to what extent it is. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Yeah. So I'm still thinking through that, but maybe could we switch over to Selena? There's a very interesting question from Stacy Cho, who's asking about the Singapore context and how sex work is regulated in Singapore. So how can it be improved on? What's the situation now, and how can it be improved on to better support and protect sex workers? Caittrin's talked about international perspectives. How about the Singapore perspective?
Singapore perspective, I think as it is, they used to have the yellow card system where they regulate the licensed sex workers who, because right now it's on hold because of the pandemic. So a lot of brothels have been forced to close. But how it was used to be before, they a certain department in the police would issue a special pass to the workers for some special contract, whereby one of the criteria will be to go for mandatory sexual health tests at the DSC clinic to ensure that they are in the pink of health, sexually in the pink of health. No diseases, and won't pass down any diseases. I mean, if they ever contract a disease or something, the brothel will be fined, forced to close for a certain period, cannot operate. So the girls have to ensure that condoms are used at all times, and they don't get the unwanted infections. So that is a small percentage. I think the rest, most of the Singaporean girls and trans, or even guys, they prefer to go independent because they do not want to be labeled as like bona fide sex worker, right? They want to be known as something else, providing something else. They want to go independent. They don't want to be known. They want to control their own time and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think most of these people, they will go for the free for the anonymous, private and free MTS session that we conduct every month. So we do a shout out and these people will come down to get tested. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Selena. So yeah, I think that also brings to mind a lot of I guess some points on how independence is also very important for good working conditions, right? And so some people prefer to go independent and don't fall under this particular scheme, this licensing scheme. Yeah. Maybe on the topic of choice, could we and thinking about how people move in or move or switch over to the industry, this is something that the film deals with as well. What do you think influences people's choice to work in various sectors of the industry, and how has this, maybe in your personal experience, how has working in this line benefited you?
I think for the most part, people want to earn more. You want to meet better clients. You want to get better pay. So especially Singaporeans, right? They are better educated. They are more empowered. They are by and large independent. So they want to get better clients and get better pay. Be compensated generously. So that's the reason why I think they rather be escorts or freelancers or even sugar babies. I think sugar babies is the latest is a trend. But basically, I'm talking about escorts or private service provider, or even some prefer to provide massage if they do not want to do a lot of the nitty-gritty, a lot of the the full works. It depends what exactly. I mean, the perks about being independent is like you get to decide what you want to do. If you are tired of one particular aspect, you can do something else. You're like a businesswoman, right? And you can call it quit if you think you have got enough. At some point, just like any other job. After years of experience and you want to be in touch with reality, you want to take a different skill set, so you just call it quit, or you go slow for the better. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. We have two questions here on how sex workers have been coping with COVID-19. Did you feel the need to change your services with drops in clientele? How has the pandemic changed things in terms of how sex workers organize themselves as well? Maybe Caittrin, could you speak a little bit to that?
Okay, so because I'm usually traveling even before COVID, so it's pretty it takes a bit different from me because I have to get used to staying for a long period in Singapore, which is very hard for me to to settle down so long. But yeah, it's the whole COVID thing. I have have clients who, for example, they travel in and out of Singapore and then they will meet me, and then they feel very deprived. And but the thing is that all these men, they are married or they have partners, so it's very hard for someone to actually engage online. Yeah, so there are a lot of online platforms like OnlyFans, APN, whatever you name it. But the thing is that do these clients actually have the time, private personal time, to actually view these videos? Yeah. So I mean, the thing about online sex work and in real life is that's very, very different, because it's a totally different skill set. For example, if you do OnlyFans and all this webcam, you have to know how to be photogenic and really nice set, nice scene. You have to know the scripts on what to say. And if you actually chat with these people online, then it's pretty much almost like a live chat support, almost 24/7. Because the thing is that it depends on where your clients are. are located at. So you can, yeah. And but the thing about having online sex work that you can do anytime that you want, as compared to like being in like in real life setting, because it's like there and then. And maybe like working hours. I mean, for me, I need my beauty sleep, so I don't like do past midnight. But if you're someone who do online sex work, which I don't really do much of that, but I know other girls do, they can just do anytime they want, and they can do anywhere they want. So it can be like somewhere, maybe not in Singapore, or they can be anywhere. They don't have to reveal their location. Just to like say, oh, I'm here, then you can meet me here. But if you are doing in real life, you kind of advertise that, oh, you'll be here, so that that's where your clients will find you. Yeah. But I heard that a lot of people who conspiracy before COVID, that online sex work in general is not really very popular because everybody's doing all being in a real life situation. But when the COVID-19 actually impacts, I've seen some sex workers actually earn more than the before COVID due to online sex work, because they already probably have established a presence before COVID, and then from then on, generally the guys will pick up individuals that are already kind of established rather than new ones. So that's why they can pick up more. But for me, I'm like, I just take a step back as well. Like Selena had mentioned, it's just do at your own pace. Yeah. So I mean, I have less traveling. I see more of my lifestyle stuff nowadays. Yeah, I just came back from my EU trip, which is fun. Yeah, meeting new people. But the thing is that like it's not gonna be the same because people are so wary of getting COVID. And I do have a requirement, or like you have to take your ART, make sure you're vaccinated and things like that. I mean, because even like nowadays, like after the whole lockdown period, after the lockdown thing, people are they don't mind going out, but they're still wary of meeting people, especially if like they have a family or they have partners. So those who actually would like to meet sex workers are generally single and don't have anyone to answer to. So like the market has shifted basically from like all these people with higher spending power to those people who are single and available. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's such an important observation about this changing nature of sex work and how you you have to learn, you have to establish your process and your presence online very quickly, and cope with those changes, right? Yeah. Thanks for that. What about you, Selena? Do you have anything to add in terms of how COVID-19 impacted sex work in Singapore?
Firstly, I got my savings to rely on, and then because there were what they call shutdown, or I mean we were stuck at home, and then didn't have to spend. So I got to save a lot of money, and then there had been some help from government, and then being fully employed, I've got my regular pay at the end of the month, so I didn't quite feel the impact. And even if I couldn't meet my regulars, there will be sextings, what they call sextings, webcam show, because both of us will be bored, and I'll be compensated for it. And then well, if we see each other regularly, they'll be quite generous to see that I had been taken care of, especially during that difficult period. So that earlier stage, during the infancy stage, it didn't really hit me quite hard. In fact, I was I should say doing better because I didn't have to spend money except for food. And yeah, so it wasn't quite an impact for me. Though I did not get any major jobs. I did not work like that, So
Right. So we had to dip into savings. And so for sex workers who did qualify, for folks who did qualify for the benefits or the kind of assistance packages that were given out, they were able to cope well. There were, of course, people within the industry who weren't able to qualify, right, for those, either because the work is not recognized as formal work, and they're not recognized as having a dip in income, or other reasons as well. Not being a citizen, of course, being one of them.
But I think Project X at that point of time did come up with something to assist sex workers, the Emergency Safety Net Program. And then we did help quite a number of people, fellow sex workers, like those Malaysian ladies, some Malaysian friends, locals, you know, those who couldn't work and did not qualify for certain financial packages, and they had problem paying their utility bills, buy hormones stuff and stuff like that, and then they were eligible for that. So there was a financial assistance scheme, to help them.
Thanks for sharing that. I have a question for Jessica. Thinking, about moving back to the filmmaking and thinking about the ethics of filmmaking. How did you deal with such a controversial topic? When you encounter moments of injustice, what did you do?
I mean, I think from the get-go, I spoke with Project X director, Vanessa, who kind of runs Project X together with Selena and many other team. And, they set certain conditions, right, to making a film. And the first was, for example, you can't show faces of sex workers because many of them want to protect their identities. And if you look at other films that's been done in sex work, usually either they go in armed with cameras and they just shoot blatantly, or it's usually like a sex worker against a dark background with their voice tweaked to sound like a squeak toy. And we were very much aligned on the same page, and we didn't want to do that. And so in terms of ethics, it's like, how do you make a film while respecting kind of the wishes of the community? I think that's first. Secondly, I mean, definitely, hearing a lot of these stories of abuse and violence against these women were heartbreaking. And I think it always will be. And then how do I deal with it as a filmmaker? I think you just have to highlight that, right? You just have to make it part of the story and have them talk about, when Sam talk about how the customers, some of them can be really bad when they're really bad, and bring that to light. And also then talk about, well, what should happen next, right? Is it about, and I think that's what the film aims to do, that hopefully the audience, by listening to their stories, will get a better understanding of sex workers as human beings. And that raises a bit of awareness, hopefully a little bit of thoughtfulness amongst the audience, and ultimately advocate for change. And that's also why panels like these are so important, right? And then you can tell your friends about it, right? That you should watch the film or talk more about the sex work industry in Singapore or around the world and how we can fight and advocate for the rights of sex workers. So that's kind of where I come from, making the film.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope that might be that might speak to people who are thinking about producing content or engaging with the sex worker communities. That there's something of a code of ethics to work with, perhaps, and can engage with the communities in different ways. Okay. We are about 10 minutes to the end of the panel, so don't worry, panelists, your torture is almost over. Just wanted to circle back to one of the questions that was asked earlier on. Maybe can I get Selena to talk about this? Question from Gyok Chu as well as from Dee. In a traditional society like Singapore's, have you gotten negative feedback from families of clients? And how do you respond to kind of the backlash from families? Is that something that you actually experienced? And then how do you deal with it?
Family, I'm independent, so I've lived by myself for many years now. I think it's my private decision. It doesn't have to involve my family. I'm financially independent. And prior to that, I also did some part-time freelance jobs, you know. So it's not entirely, this is like, sex work is like on and off thing. So it's not like a continuous, you know, like now I'm in full employment, so the need for sex work has gone down. I'm not coerced. To do anything, and I can decline appointment as I wish, you know. And so, and then I don't have sex outside work. So meaning, so I don't care. I don't take it too hard, or like I try. It teaches me to be less sensitive about what people have to say, because after all, I have my pride and dignity, you know, and I've got a little exit tongue, so you know I always have something to say in retaliation for any mocking or whatever that comes my way. And I think people respect you for that, being able to stand on your own feet and you know, to call the shots or whatever in whatever instance. And I don't have to blow the trumpet and tell the whole world what I do. Don't ask, don't tell. So yeah, so I learned to maneuver, and of course it does get to me, but I think I've gone past that, and no longer it no longer burdens me, you know. Yeah. So does that answer the question?
Yeah. I hope so. The audience is the one asking this. So I too am their puppet. Okay. Well, we have to be approximate 8 minutes left. And there's one, I think we'll just do one last question, and maybe one last question on employment opportunities. Have there been employment opportunities or resources for sex workers looking for other options?
Yes, very good question. I think a lot of former sex workers, or even current sex workers, independent, freelance, whatever you want to call it, they have gone to apply for certain vocations. So for example, if it used to be makeup, beauty, and now a lot of them taking advantage of the Skill Future WSQ courses, like security, for example, you know, and even marketing, e-commerce, because some of us would like to sell stuff online, you know, during our own free time, and make profits from there, or even be influencer that you review food or eatery, you know, restaurant, whatever. Yeah, so I see, and some are even taking the opportunity to be to work to get temporary employment, like be a safety ambassador, safe entry stuff, you know. This I wouldn't know, maybe it can last another 2 or 3 years. So so you see that a lot of them are venturing, starting to venture out, doing other stuff, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I think that also highlights how creative sex workers have to be. It's not easy to switch from the one line to another. I think anybody who switched careers has experienced this as well. There's so much knowledge and skills you have to know and pick up on the way.
Yeah, it is like you want something different. If you want something so bad, then you have to face the music. You have to do something that you may not like. And then you will take some time to like it, you know, because you cannot live under the shell forever. You know, like I used to take taxi and now take the public transport since the last few, I mean, not that I've stopped taking taxi, but or Grab, but you cut down on that because I do not want to be too private. So face the music, who cares what people have got to say? You pay your own food, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing, Selena and Caittrin and Jessica, and for your participation. We have 5 minutes left on the panel. So I was just hoping to maybe end the panel with a line or two, if you, any messages that you have for the audience that you want them to take away from this particular film and the reaction video. Yeah, 1 or 2 lines that you might want the audience to take away.
I think for me, it's knowing that, you know, sexuality is complex, right? And so is sex work and this whole spectrum of it. And I think before we come to any conclusion as to what sex work is, what it entails, just listen to the stories. And I think that will help us to make a better decision as to what it is. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this whole film is not to get people to be pro or con sex work and sex workers. It is just really a vignette, a slice of life, right? So that you get a little bit more understanding. And I think if that's what the film achieves, to leave people a bit more thoughtful, then I think it's done its job.
Thank you, Jessica. Caittrin, Selena?
I guess for me, it's like sex work is work. It's still a valid work, just that it's not very known to like people in Singapore in general. Like, for example, like sex work is very known in the US. They call themselves like a normal person. They actually call them sex workers. Yeah. But like in here, I mean, it's very stigmatized. But you know, like everywhere else in the world, especially the more westernized country, it's a valid work and you get taxed for it.
Yeah, you get taxed and criminalized for something that might make you a living, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Selena, last thoughts? Any messages?
If anything, if this short film could change a little perception about sex work, if you listen carefully what Bunny had to say about her lunchtime client, okay, that was exactly what I had to deal with during my heyday, or rather when I was at it full time. So that's the different aspect of sex work that like people do not know. So we are not like that. We don't enable it. We just help them to realize their fantasy. So it's like we are paid to dance to their tune. The private, it's not what we are, you know. So it's not, we don't teach them. It's already in them, and they want to realize it because they feel that we are the only channel that will recognize that, right? So it's not something new. So we are just there to make it happen for them, and it's for most part, it's what they want. Is we're ceding to their request. It's not what it's not our desire, unique desire, or we don't teach them whatever. It's like a service provider. It's customer service. So we dance to their tune so that people don't know. So we don't teach bad things. You know, they already have it in mind. They already have the fantasy, fetish, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for saying all of that so wonderfully and articulately, Selena. I think that sort of brings us to the close of today's panel. And I hope that you all have enjoyed this and learned a lot from this rich discussion involving Caittrin, Selena, and Jessica on the documentary, as well as on the reaction video. So I think at this point, I do want to say thank you to those who bought donation tickets. Our event was populated a lot by people who supported other people's attendance today. And we hope that the more of you will support this festival and keep it alive. If this your donations go to supporting the festival programs, the workshops, films, incubator projects, as well as grants for filmmakers. So if you like this panel and you want to see more of these, please do consider supporting the festival, especially especially given the kind of support that the festival lends marginalized communities like sex workers. And of course, if you're having very strong feelings after the film and you want to support sex workers and their organization, you can donate to Project X, or you can find your local sex worker and donate to them directly as well. So that brings us to the close of today's event. I think I didn't leave anything out. Nina, did I leave anything out? Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today.